You know what? Only a fool would pick the Grand Seiko over this King
Wait a minute,
Seiko.
doesn't that make you a fool because that's your Grand Seiko?
Yes, but I never picked this watch. I swear to you, I walked into the AD and it flew to my wrist. But if you're normal, this is maybe not such a tough call. The King Seiko will save you thousands of dollars. And it's pretty good. So in this video, we're gonna compare them real quick and maybe save someone a ton of money. Introducing Grand Seiko versus King Seiko. Which one is better? And for this comparison, we're going to talk about a few categories that I feel are the most important. Okay, so let's start off with finishing. When you are spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a timepiece, you want excellent finishing because you want it to look the part. Grand Seiko operates at the upper echelon of watchmaking, and even with their entry-level timepieces like the watch we have here today, they set the standard for finishing. This GS is hand-finished with the technique only a few artisans around the world have mastered. And yes, I'm talking about Zaratsu polish. The SBGW has that unmistakable Grand Seiko sparkle. It is special and its mid-century case design is elegant and classic. The finishing brings out every curve and contour with extreme clarity. And I gotta mention, the in-the-hand feel gives you a high impression of quality. Now the King Seiko is no slouch here. It also feels high quality, but it doesn't quite have that sheen that the Grand Seiko has. The case is very unique, mixing flat planes with smooth, sexy curves. And the King Seiko is polished to a high degree. Even when I did the full review, I thought it was Zaratsu polish, but I couldn't find any official information from Seiko. To my eye, the Grand Seiko looks better, but that could just be mental bias because I know the pricing. And when we take a look inside the watch, the differences become a little bit more apparent. The Grand Seiko's applied hour markers are hand-polished Zaratsu with laser-sharp edges. While the King Seiko has improved from past iterations, you can see imperfections around the edges of each hour marker. There's some specks or micro dents or some kind of markings. But it's important to note that this is only visible under a macro lens. Where the King Seiko punches back in a surprising turn of events is the handset. The hands have brushing on the top with high polished beveled edges. And the hands are sharp and clean, even on the edges. And when we look at the Grand Seiko's handset, I would say they are finished to a similar standard. And that is simply because this is the entry-level Grand Seiko. If you go up a tier, they double down on the edges and even underneath the handset. Alright, let's shift focus. This next category is going to be short and sweet, and the King Seiko wins. What am I talking about? The water resistance. The King Seiko has a push-pull crown and 50 meters of water resistance. The Grand Seiko also has a push-pull crown, but it's only splash-proof and it's got a measly 30 meters of water resistance. I know what you guys are saying, these are dress watches, it shouldn't matter, but I kind of think it does. I'm not going to say no to 50 meters, it gives me peace of mind, much more than 30. I don't know why, but it does. Okay, so what is powering these two timepieces? The Grand Seiko is a manual wound mechanical, and it is the caliber 9S64. It has a 3-day power reserve MEMS technology escapement, and the teeth of the escape wheel is polished by hand. Grand Seiko tests the movement in 6 positions for 12 days before casing, and it's rated at -3 plus 5 seconds a day. Now the King Seiko's movement is automatic, and it's the brand new in-house 6L caliber. There's no display case back, so we can't see it, and this one doesn't have a lot of information on it. So it could be rhodium plated, but I doubt it. It doesn't really look like it. And there could be some hand assembly like the Grand Seiko. But again, there is no real information on this. Seiko is tight-lipped, so we have to assume it isn't. So there seems to be a gulf in quality between the two movements. But with all that being said, look at the performance. It's performing really good on the time grapher, and this is not a fluke. I've tested about 12 different 6L movements on this channel. You can go back and find the videos, and all of them have performed COSC or better. The architecture is a natural-born chronometer, and it does have the potential for greatness. But as it stands today, it is rated at -10 plus 15 seconds, which is not something you would like to hear when you're paying thousands of dollars. Alright, what about the weight? Well, they're very close. Sized up for my 6.7-inch wrist, the King Seiko came in at 114 grams, while the Grand Seiko, sized up for my wrist, came in at 102 grams. So it is 12 grams lighter, but remember, it is smaller. Okay, now let's check out the sizing. The King Seiko's diameter is 39.4 millimeters, and the Grand Seiko's is 37.4. But the secret measurement is 32 millimeters for both watches. So they have the same sapphire size, and most likely dial is very close. For the thickness, this is where the King Seiko shines. It's only 9.9 millimeters thick. That's an automatic watch with a boxed sapphire. The Grand Seiko has a boxed sapphire as well, but it does dome at the top. The King Seiko doesn't. The lug-to-lugs are also very close. The wingspan on the King Seiko is 43.6, and on the Grand Seiko, 44.2. So the Grand Seiko is longer and taller, and the King Seiko is thinner and wider. Take note that the Grand Seiko also has a sapphire display case back that usually increases the thickness of a watch by 1 millimeter. Okay, let's move down and check out the bracelets. Both bracelets are the same size, 19 millimeters, and they taper down to 17. The Grand Seiko has a thick beads of rice style, and it's fixed via 2 screws on each side. The finishing is done by hand, and it's a thing of beauty. But the bracelet has a huge flaw. There are no half links and no micro adjustments, so getting the perfect fit is going to be very difficult. For me in the morning, it fits loose, but as the day progresses and I guess my wrist swells, it starts to fit perfectly. For how much I paid for this watch, I'll be honest, it's quite annoying that there is no quick on-the-fly micro adjustment system. And when we look at the King Seiko, the story is similar. No micro adjustments, but this time it's a butterfly clasp and a 13-link razor blade style design. The bracelet is secured via a pin and collar system instead of screws, and I found it to be one of the more difficult pin and collars to size. Overall, I really like it. I think it looks fantastic, but I found the Grand Seiko a little bit more comfortable on the wrist. It is unfortunate that Seiko neglects their bracelets, or that's what it seems like as a consumer. Okay, now getting down to business. Let's talk numbers. The Grand Seiko comes in at a price of $5,700 USD. That is no small sum, but when you factor in the level of craftsmanship and how many components are actually finished by hand, you start to understand why they price their watches like they do. Grand Seiko isn't cutting any corners here. And take note, they rarely offer discounts at their authorized dealer. The King Seiko, on the other hand, retails for only, I say only, but $3,100 USD. And unlike the Grand Seiko, you can usually get a decent discount at your local authorized dealer. Let's take a moderate example. If you get 15% off, you're looking at a savings of nearly $3,000. And that means you're paying roughly 50% of the price for a watch that in many ways isn't that far behind. So, is the Grand Seiko worth nearly double the cost? That really depends on what you value in a watch. Do you value the story, the looks, or the added human touch? If so, the Grand Seiko's premium may be worthwhile to you. But I think the smart money goes with the King Seiko every single time. The King Seiko is so compelling, and it gets you mostly the way there for significantly less. But I want to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments section, and let me know which one you're taking in this comparison. So I spent a lot of time with the King. 2-week experiment, and My conclusion is, if I did not own the Grand Seiko, I'm not sure I would miss it. I really enjoyed this watch. It's kind of a replacement for it. But again, all joking aside, I love this thing, so it's tough for me to say that because I really love the Grand Seiko, especially with the silver, the boring dial. But the King Seiko comes in silver too, so I don't know. Did this video help? Comment down below, which one are you taking in this comparison? Did I save you any money? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, what watch are you wearing?
I'm wearing my Seiko 5 YouTubers Lied to Me Super Mod. Is that Super Mod? I don't know. It's an awesome watch though.